Okay.
What's happening, Andy here? I am joined today by Ed Bilson of DataMaster. DataMaster is a product testing and research firm located in France. I can't remember what city in France you're in. You did just move. Good morning, Edward. Good afternoon to you. How are you?
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning. Thanks very much, Andy. Yeah, we're in Rennes in northwest France, the old Celtic part of France.
All right, Northwest France. It looks like you are actually in an office, which is good to see. I think the last time we spoke last year, just like here, nobody was in their offices, but now we're making some progress.
Yeah, just moved, new lab, new offices, feeling pretty good.
New lab, new offices. So for those of you who don't know who DataMaster is, I'm going to let you tell us what do you guys do? You've been in business for quite a while now. Give us the overview. What is DataMaster?
So since 2007, a database and a sales enablement site comparing copiers side by side with lab tests, certification, evaluation, and the usual shebang. So you can, our subscribers subscribe to our site, typically copier salespeople. And sales and marketing people at brand level, mostly European, but we run in English, French, German, Spanish, Italian, so on, and Russian as well, a little bit. And we've got customers all over the world and lots in the USA.
So this is a product, I know I'm very familiar with it. We've partnered with you over the years to help you resell it. And so this was a product comparison service where a sales rep could log on, compare their brand A, Canon, Ricoh Sharp, whatever it is that you're selling, and then find all the strengths and weaknesses against brand B. And so this was, what kinds of things were we looking at? We were looking at productivity. You were looking at, I think, even image quality after a while. You added that to your suite. Yeah. You were looking at basic specs, which one was faster, which one was geared to go make more pages per month. What other kinds of things do you include in those?
Well, features and functions. We do a lot of lab work. You've put your finger right on it. Productivity, print quality, also the usability of machines and the software that goes with them, of course, the whole solutions area. I think the key product that we've got is, in fact, still the technical side-by-sides. That's what gets the highest hit rate from all our customers. And what's cool in what we do is that we make those smart by coloring them so that you can easily see the winning spec from the losing spec, and a couple of special features so that in a couple of clicks you can just see what's hot about the machine that you're trying to sell. We always imagine that our customers, for whatever reason, not able to prepare for a meeting properly, and in the minute before he or she goes in, they need to immediately see some sales arguments, characteristic, advantage and benefit, and see some technical specs. Just know exactly what to talk about to talk up their machine, and let's be honest, talk down the competitors.
Yes. So here are all the reasons that my product will work for you, and here are some questions maybe you should ask your other sales rep, right? So
yeah, and just on that specifically, I think more and more it's not just about making more sales, it's about keeping margins and avoiding those downward spiral conversations that are based all around price, just haggling. I don't see why somebody with a premium machine should be simply arguing on price with somebody against somebody who's selling a really cheap one. And the information that we put at their fingertips enables them to escape from those downward spiral conversations.
So this product, these services, you really are geared towards the salesperson, right? Do you also have end users who are subscribers, or is this strictly a sales tool?
A few. Sometimes that tends to be mostly reprography departments, where people are looking at digital presses.
Big buyers.
It's pretty technical. There's lots of stuff for anybody that's using the printer on all of our sites. Printer-benchmark.com. There's lots of stuff in there for buyers of even quite small machines. But what we perceive is that it's people who are looking at a new press or even a low-end one that are probably going to understand the specifications and see the significance of what we're talking about.
Well, we definitely will put a link in the bottom of this description for this video. And you know, if you're watching this and you want to learn more about this side-by-side comparison service, you are more than welcome to click that link and go visit DataMaster. It's not just copiers and printers. I know that's what you started as, but you also offer comparison services for solutions, right? And that's vertically marketed. It's divided. You allow people to look at different vertical markets and look at different solutions based on those vertical markets.
That's right.
Print management, document management, anything an office equipment reseller would sell.
And a whole load of stuff on the production print side, web to print, print ERP, comparing products side by side, and not just the features and functions, but also the installation requirements. You know, it's very nice to compare one piece of software with another one, but if one of them is going to require you to buy a new server, then you're down for $5,000 before you even bought your first license, aren't you?
True. And so now you guys,
really boring, but we try to make it interesting with our color scheme, make it easily digestible. I think that's what we do really well.
Well, the product I've seen in the past has been very, very useful. And there are a bunch of dealers here in the States that are using it, as well as, you know, all over Europe and some of the other markets that you're in. Truly a global product, because you can switch back and forth between different languages at the touch of a button. I've always thought that was very cool. But the new thing you guys are doing now, and you've moved into, is scanning, right? So let's talk about that now. That was the purpose of the chat today. I wanted to learn more about this. This was not something that you guys were doing when I was partnering a little more closely with you. And so give me the idea, the logic behind it. What do you see as the opportunity for scanning? Why are you all of a sudden testing these after all these years? Tell me about what you're finding.
Well, we'd actually been testing the scan heads on copiers increasingly since 2016. We completely rejuvenated the test suites for scanners. Increasingly, as it's the elephant in the room here, perhaps, but people are printing rather a lot less than they used to, and are much more interested in dispensing with paper, at least at the end user level. And so file size, that's really important. Productivity of the machine. And so we've been doing these tests on copiers, and it was very easy to extend these tests onto doing scanners. Many of our customers were moving into selling scanners too, and the whole thing was really interesting. And what we've, well, a few things have been pleasant surprises for us in all of that, but what we're about is finding the differences between products and making the whole selling process perhaps a little bit more democratic, by putting tests independently arrived at test results, comparable side by side. And we've been really surprised to discover just how much difference there has been, or there is, in between scanners, regardless really of segment, across the manufacturers. And three things spring to mind: what we've called overall productivity. So that's not just the time it takes for the machine to turn. Whether we're talking about a copier or on a scanner, there's this processing time. So the time it takes to OCR what I've just scanned, and certainly to compress it, huge variation. And so we call that the overall productivity. So, but perhaps we'll get into a little bit more detail about that later on. Another great difference is actually in the quality of the scan. And the usability. Talking about the copier interface, how easy it is to actually scan to a distant folder, but particularly looking in depth at scanners, the great variation that there is across the board between the usability of the scan management software. So
you're testing scanners. You were testing scanners in the office equipment in the copier, right? So now you're testing standalone scanners. What do you see between them? I mean, is it I always kind of looked at that and wondered, how much longer until just that MFP, that all-in-one device, displaces scanners, but they don't seem to go away. There are still several companies involved in marketing those devices as standalone. They're very successful. What is it about those standalone scanners that make them so prevalent, and they just won't go away? Why is that?
Well, there's numerous different ways that you can lay these things out. And a real standalone scanner doesn't need to be attached to a PC, right? Whereas 90% of the scanners that sell are attached to a PC by USB on Twain, or in your Macintosh world, there's some other alternative. I don't know how it is because I haven't got the money to try it out. You know what it is.
It just works. That's all you need to know.
Exactly. Yes. The standalone scanner is something which is quite new, actually, or relatively new. And what we're talking about there is a machine which has got sufficient power in it. We're talking about a desktop scanner, a box which, as you've correctly described, is standing alone as opposed to being attached to a printer. But it's a particular thing in the scan world, this standalone machine. They compare and contrast very well to a photocopier. I mean, we're all talking, it's the technology is exactly the same. It's 600, 300, 200 DPI. Is it gray or is it black? Is it color? Am I going to compress it? Am I going to OCR it, etc., etc., etc.? And these things work better and worse depending on the photocopier. I think probably compression's okay on some photocopiers. You often see this PDF compact, which is actually an excellent compression algorithm, and it makes for very, very small files. One might have expected a desktop dedicated scanner to do a better scan job than a photocopier, but I've got good news for copier salespeople. There's a bunch of things that actually work quite well on photocopiers. Now, in our scan quality analyses, because I'm just somebody that never throws anything away, we've got all our scan tests going back to 2007, and these have revealed, when we have a little poke at them, I don't think anybody's interested in reselling a machine from 2007, but the quality was there on the scan head, and I hate to mention names, but Sharp scanners were particularly high quality in sort of 2012 to 2015. They were particularly high quality. Now, pardon me for digressing a little bit, but quality then, so we could be talking about quality, we could be talking about the fidelity of the faithfulness of different color schemes and the resolution and the contrast, but that tends to be more photo scanners that are perhaps not the immediate business of most of our friends in the equipment market. What we're talking about is the quality for OCR. So when you scan the image, are the O's properly closed, or is the OCR going to read that as a U? Is there a difference? Can you see in between the dots on the I and the line, or is the OCR going to read that as an L? Now, don't get me wrong, every machine with a normal document printed nicely in black on a nice white background, all of those will read those absolutely fine. But invoices these days, they've probably got scrunched up between the post room and the scanner. And anyway, the text was printed with a logo on the background. Huge difference across the market in between the way some scanners and their software will be able to lift the text away from the graphic on the background and be able to satisfactorily OCR it. Again, you know, so long as it's well printed and so long as the characters are nice and big, everybody does it fine. We go to the extreme and find out which machines start to cop out at whatever level. And there's a lot of difference there. A lot of difference.
So I remember doing an evaluation when we had our own lab back in the day, and it was a pretty striking test. I won't get into who commissioned it and what the results were, but I will say that there was it was company A had a real advantage over the file sizes at default scan. So you'd walk up and scan out of the box, and you would get, you know, a considerably smaller file size than you got out of brand B, C, D, and E, right? And so that's why we were there to verify that. But what an eye opener that was! And those were, you know, those were you know, full A3 copiers. I have to imagine that these standalone scanners now are just, you know, the capability of them, the routing and where everything goes, the balancing, the straightening, and on top of it, the OCR that's bundled in with a lot of these. The usefulness of these scanners has got to be through the roof now. And what are your thoughts on, you know, the opportunities going forward, especially as we're in this remote, quasi-remote, partial at work, partial at home world, at least over here. I'm sure you guys are in somewhat similar situation where you're spending a lot more time working at home. These products, where are the opportunities in your mind for standalone scanners at the moment?
The scanners most scanners need to be attached to a PC. Most scanners, and particularly the really big ones that you find in the mailroom, they're going to stay that way. They work best that way, whether they're attached to a PC or perhaps across the network to a server. But what we're seeing is, it's very, very interesting, is scanners are kind of portable and are actually finding their scan management software up on the cloud. It is all about document management on the cloud, and it's all about archiving and making people's paper go away. And that's why this file size thing is so important. If you look at a wardrobe full of paper, and you say, how are you going to scan it? Well, on this machine, you're going to need a tera, and on this machine, you're going to need 5 terabytes, Quite a lot of work going on that, and the document management people are quite interested in our output. And obviously the scanner manufacturers and resellers and the copier manufacturers. But once again, I'm going to say, copiers fare extremely well up against scanners. And there's another thing with copiers. You get a free printer with it.
Yeah, I don't know if we can debate on how free it is. What brands have you guys looked at now at this point? How many different brands?
Oh, everybody. They're very interested in working with us. We partnered up straight away with Epson and HP and Brother through partners Speedgraph, who are a European distributor. I can't remember if they're present in the States or not, but they've sent us the Canon, Fujitsu and Kodak machines. Panasonic have just decided to pull out, and
I know they were my client. They were my client. It's a shame. I've worked with them for many years. They're a great company, but hopefully they'll be back in some other form at some point.
Yeah. Well, it's quite a full market, I guess. As we see a little bit in the copier world, wondering which one of the manufacturers might leave, then there's lots of strings to the Panasonic bow, aren't there? So I can quite see why it was difficult for the scanner people at Panasonic to say, oh no, we need to spend another $1 billion on development here.
So the scanners you're looking at, one of the tools that you're putting in the pocket of the sales rep is you're helping them explain to a customer, why it's worth spending the extra money on my product versus the others. I have to imagine now, especially the way people tend to buy lower price ticket items like standalone scanners, right? I've got this sales rep comes in and shows me a scanner for $2,000 or $3,000, and I go to Amazon and I find one for $200. Now, do you help explain? Do you show them, or maybe just answer me now? What is the difference between a scanner I find online for that type of price versus these more robust scanners? What is robust? What am I getting for my money?
Robust is the key word, I think. In between a desktop and the speed, we might be talking as low as 20 pages per minute. There's a capacity in the feeder, which may be as small as 5. When I'm looking at a departmental machine, then we're talking a feeder which can take 100 sheets. And these things are mechanically strong and good for hundreds of thousands of scans per month. And even the machine that's there in the middle of that range that you just set out, say, something under $1,000, is probably going to have a monthly volume in the tens or even hundreds of thousands of scans. They all do double-sided automatically, because essentially they've got two heads in the scanner, just like the one on your SRA3 copier. Another little advantage of the copier there is that most A3 SRA3 copiers have got an A3 scanner, and that means that you can put the documents in landscape. So they do run faster. The big difference is, and the reason that we put all this information out there so that people can tell the difference, the biggest difference, I think, is this overall productivity. So I'm just going to get a little bit mathematical just for a minute, but let's say I've got an 80 image per minute scanner, and I've got 40 double-sided, and I've got 40 sheets of double-sided. So I'm putting that through 80 images per minute scanner. That should take a minute, right?
Yes.
But I want to thank you. You're with me so far. So, but to OCR and compress it takes how long? The shortest time we found with one machine was 4 seconds. From the last sheet going through the feeder to the PDF arriving where it was supposed to be, OCR'd, readable text PDF, compressed, nice small file, 4 seconds. The slowest machine took 1 minute, 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Nobody, even a home worker, has really got time to, well, maybe they have. But, you know, most people haven't got a minute.
You're just standing there in front of the machine waiting is what you're doing, right? Or you're waiting.
Well, I mean, at that point, you go and do something else, don't you?
Yeah, but the frustration factor of...
What was even more surprising, I found, was that the product managers at the brands didn't know. The ones that did 4 seconds didn't know the advantage that they had, and the ones that took 1 minute and 45 seconds, and I'm not going to mention any names, they didn't know that they were taking quite so long. Same issue really with this scan quality thing, which you can see on side by side in DMO, the different quality of scanning for OCR, and this ability to lift text off a complex background. There's one manufacturer that does that just hopelessly. You know, you really need to have decent quality, decent sized text for it to work with them. And then there's the ease of being able to do that. And that's where there's a little advantage still for copiers. The presets in copiers for scanning that kind of a document that you're going to OCR, whether you OCR it on the photocopier or not, I don't care. The point is that the text has been accentuated and lifted off the page. The presets just, okay, it's a text, press the green button. On copiers, they work extremely well. With your scanner, where you've got the machine, then you've got the driver of the machine. You know, you install the driver on the PC or on the Macintosh. Well, it probably does it itself in your world, doesn't it? But you know what I'm getting at. So there's the driver, and that's where the real image quality interpretation and all the cleanup happens. It's very specific to the driver. And then there's the software in which you're going to run, you're going to pull the scan, as opposed to being on the copier interface and you're going to push the scan. That works extremely well on everybody's scan management software. And you've got lots more options than you have on a photocopier. You can set up zonal OCR. You can hook it up so that you've got some kind of semantic analysis of the OCR, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've got lots more options. But for a busy user, they're just looking quickly for something that says, this is text, accentuate the text. And what we find is, with that restriction, busy user restriction, let's say, copiers come out really well.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So you didn't want to say which ones did poorly. Can I get you to name somebody who did really well in that test? What scanners have stood out to you as being really, really good scanners?
There's the paper handling side of it as well. And again, you know, we go to extremes here.
Yes.
I've had somebody with different sizes of bits of paper and dropping them from increasing heights into the feeder so that they're definitely going all over the place, and then sometimes actually measuring the angle that we're putting them into the feeder at. And you'd be surprised, read sheet machines come out extremely well on that. Overall, you know why you paid for a Kodak or a Fujitsu and a Canon when you're doing that. But Epson too have got a patented system with the two little rollers that kind of make more originals go through happily, even under extreme circumstances. Paper handling is really, really important, you know, but all the manufacturers do their very best to do that. I'll just say though that there's some really strange things like very expensive scanner, the little thing, you know, where the paper comes out and there's a little block to stop it. Well, how much does that cost?
Thousands.
Fractions of a cent.
Yeah.
And a very expensive machine, which I will not name, it just, every time it scanned, it drooped like that. And by the time we got to the end of the test, it's just chucking them straight on the floor.
Yep. It's, you know, design doesn't always work the way they intend it to work. And in my days with that lab, we found that all the time. You just, you'd be surprised how many devices out there will just throw the documents on the floor after a certain point. And I've seen that over and over again. It's kind of funny. So Edward, this was just great stuff. I'm really happy to have you on. We will put contact information and more info about the programs that you offer, the product testing and the comparison services. We're about to head into our holidays, so I will wish you a happy Thanksgiving. You can look up what that means. We're having a nice week off next week for the most part, so it's a down week for us, but you know, good time of the year for everybody here, and
great.
We will look forward to talking to you again. Any last shout outs, any last messages to everybody?
No, that's cool. Thank you very much. Yeah. Please come along to printer-benchmark.com, send me an email, eb@printer-benchmark.com, and check out DMO scanners. We'd be
all the contact info.
You all. Thank you so much.
We'll put all the contact info in the description below. And thank you very much. And we'll talk soon, Ed. Good seeing you.
Thanks, Andy. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.